So in this video, I want to show you a way to work with projects in Claude Desktop. Of course, you can use any platform you like. You could use VS Code with Roo or Klein or Augment or GitHub Copilot or any other front end that you like. So what this is basically it's a memory bank. What is a memory bank? A memory bank is something which allows you to track the progress of your project. It allows you to add tasks. It allows you to create files and folders which show the overall structure of your project, and it allows you to resume chat sessions with full memory of what you finished in the last session. So let me show you how to use it. So right now I'm going to show you how to initiate the memory bank, and I'm working with my movies folder. So this is my movies folder, and now you will see that right now it doesn't have a memory bank folder. So let's create that. And for that purpose, I have created a script. This script is available in my memory bank repository over here in MBCLI. It's memory bank CLI source index.js. So you just have to either clone or just download this file. Now, so what happens if I say init with dry run? Okay, and I'm running this in my movies folder. That's the project folder where I want to initiate the memory bank. So you see that this dry run is showing you which files will be created. This will be the set of folders. There'll be a main memory bank folder, tasks, sessions, templates, database, implementation details, and archive. And then there'll be in the templates folder, there'll be these files. Each of these files is provides you with a template. For instance, this is the template of the edit history file. Uh, I'll show you more about what the exact structure of these files looks like. First, I want to show you how to work with this memory bank. Then it will create these core files. There'll be a database, and the database is not 100% functional at present, but it's good enough to use. Now, that's the dry run. So let's create the proper memory bank without the dry run. Now you can see this memory bank folder has shown up here with all of these files. Okay, and since we're going to work with the movies folder, let's add it to our workspace and save this workspace. Okay, right. So now in our memory bank, we have our templates, but we don't have the actual files yet. So if you look in edit history, it's empty right now. Okay. Then if you look in the tasks file, this is the master task file, it's empty. Then there is a tasks folder. This will contain individual task files. Now the key to working with this memory bank is basically something called there is a set of rules. What are those set of rules? These are the rules. I call them the integrated code rules, memory bank system. And I need to give a shout out to Gosu Coder, who was the inspiration for creating this memory bank project, who first showed how to simplify the prompt which you give to Klein or Roo code. And starting from there, I sort of built upon that, taking up bits and pieces from here and there. But I think that was my key inspiration. So these are a set of rules. So this is basically a file, a text file, and right now this is about 678 lines. Now we can go to the OpenAI tokenizer, which counts the number of tokens in any piece of text. So you can see that right now this prompt consists of around 5,000 to 6,000 tokens. So you can always reduce this if you think this is too much. I think this is not too much because in a typical prompt, if you look at the token usage, it can be from anywhere between 30,000 to 50,000. So an overhead of 5,000 tokens is really not that much, especially when helps you get so much work done. Okay, so now let's go to Claude Desktop. And this is the most important part, project knowledge. Of course, you have to be using the pro version because projects are not available in the free desktop, Claude Desktop version. So here we set the project instructions. Now in the project instructions, we have to specify the project root and the memory bank folder. And since we are using the movies we'll specify these folders. And then all I've done is pasted these integrated rules in this folder. And this contains a certain set of instructions which I have found to be useful when working with Claude, because Claude, especially 3.7 and Claude 4, they are very powerful tools, but it's a bit like having a chainsaw which is powered by a jet engine. And so if you don't guide it, instead of cutting down a single tree, it can cut down the whole forest and turn all those trees into an IKEA furniture store. So you want to keep it under control. So I've added a bunch of these rules, and they are meant to guide Claude into working slowly and step by step. Of course, Claude still doesn't follow instructions very well, so you have to uh, you you just have to struggle with it. Okay, so now let me show you how to use this memory bank. So I will tell Claude here that can you access the project root? And also I should point out that I have installed the desktop commander MCP, which is, for me, it's essential. It's a core part of my daily usage. So now you can see it's trying to access the movies folder. It can't access it because it is not in the list of allowed directories. So then you tell it to add it to the allowed list. So makes this tool call to get config and set config. And just in case you're curious, you can go to where is it? Well, there is a desktop commander. This thing, yeah, there we go. Claude server commander. So there is a hidden folder, starts with a dot in your home folder. And if you look at this, if you look in the config file, it has a list of. It starts off with the blocked commands, and of course you don't want Claude to have access to all of these commands like reboot and so on and so forth. And here you see there is a set of allowed folders. So this is what happens when you call this get config and set config value. It reads the values from this config.json file, and it has added the movies folder over here. Great. So now we can work with the movies folder, right? But if you remember, the movies folder has been initialized, but the files are still completely empty. So you have to tell Claude to initialize uh, the the memory bank files. So please initialize the memory bank files. And now here you see it says request approval. And the only reason it's saying that is because in the integrated rules, I have specified over and over again that it has to request approval for generating and editing memory bank files. So now it has read the memory bank, it has looked at the folder, it has read these files, and they are empty, right? And according to critical compliance requirements, which is a section that I have added to the integrated rules, which is this section in critical compliance requirements. And so Claude is is very ornery, and you really have to be very strict with it. But you also have to be gentle at the same time because you don't want to upset it. So now it says I need to initialize these files with the proper templates, right? And I'll say proceed, but I will also add one more thing, which is that use local system time and time zone for timestamps. This is something that I have not yet added to the integrated rules, but it can just one sentence, it can easily be added. So it starts off by checking the system time, and then it starts initializing the core files. And now let's go to VS Code. And this is our movies project. Let's look in, we need to initialize a repository. Let's do that, right? So you can see that, well, there's a whole bunch of files that we need to add to git ignore. So we'll do that also in a second. But you can see that it has initialized a tasks file, an edit history file, and you can see in the edit history file, it has added the first entry, which is 19th of June at 4:35. And it says 4:35 because I asked it to use the system time. If you don't ask Claude to use the system time, then it just puts some time which is like many hours off from what your local time is. And this is the form of the entries. And um, if you compare this to the edit history template this is the edit history template, and you can see that this is what the entries should look like, and that is what they look like, right? So let's go back to Claude, and now you can see that it has created these files. Well, they were already there, it has filled them in. Tasks, session cache, edit history, error log, progress, and it has created a session file for this existing session, right? Now that's it. Now we can start working with our project. Let's start by adding the first task. We don't have any tasks. Our task registry is empty, right? So let's add the first task. Please create a new task for memory bank and project initialization. This project will deal with creating, editing, and uploading videos to YouTube and other streaming platforms. And in addition to Desktop Commander, I also have another MCP server installed, which is called YouTube. And this is something that I have made based on something that, well, somebody else made. So let me show you what it looks like. And this is, I call it, well, for simplicity, YTMCP. And it's actually a fork of the YouTube MCP server, which was made by this user, iCraft2170. But there were many things that were missing in the original YouTube, this one. One of those things was authentication, which allows you to use the server to read your private playlists and upload videos and so on and so forth. So this project will deal with creating and uploading videos to YouTube. It will make use of the YouTube MCP server as needed. Now you will notice that it is using something called a block edit. And again, this is something that I specified in the integrated rules. I've told it that it should use block edits whenever a file is to be changed. Otherwise, what it will often do is it will do a complete rewrite of the file. And if your file is 500 lines and you just want to add a new entry which is 5 lines in length, then obviously that's not a very efficient usage uh, of your quotas, right? So it's created a file and it's updating the session cache. Now let's take a look at what the session cache looks like. This is the session cache. You can see that it has today's date and the present time. And in this session cache, what does it say? It says that there is an active task T1, right? Now we can open the T1 task file that has also been created. This is the T1 task file, right? So this T1 task file tells it contains all this information, right? And there is another file that is useful. This is a progress. This tracks the changes in the project over time. And then there are a bunch of other files which are used to track the overall design and structure of the project. These include system patterns, tech context, and see, system patterns, tech context, project brief, and then a change log and an active context. Active context is not really needed. So I should ask it to initialize these files. I should also ask it to create a git ignore for this folder. So it has updated the edit history. If you go here, you will see that it has updated the edit history, and it adds entries to this file uh, starting from the bottom up. So new entries are added to the top of the file. So the first entry it added was the memory bank initialization, and the second entry is the task creation T1. And now let's ask it such as project brief, system context, what was that? System patterns, tech context, and well, there should be a readme and change log also. So again, it's saying I need your approval. And if you do not have this set of rules, which I specified in the project knowledge, what Claude will do is it will just start creating files. And before you know it, it will have created so many things that you have no control over what's going on anymore. So it's telling you that it needs to initialize the following project files, and you tell it to proceed, use system time and time zone timestamps. That's because, well, the system time has changed a little bit since over the last 5-10 minutes. So now let's go to project brief. So you can see that it has created a basic outline for what this project is about, right? And I didn't really tell it what the contents of this file should be. So it has gone ahead and made its made a file based on what it thinks should be required for a video creation and editing project, right? So file format, processing tools, storage, so on and so forth. So there's project brief. What is the next file it's working on? System patterns. So let's take a look at system patterns, right? So this is the system patterns file and seems not to be following its, see, right. So this is the system patterns file. And right now this is very generic, but as the project takes shape, these files also start to uh, become more and more well defined. And then we can look at the other ones, tech context. So for this project, there is really no code stack that is being used. If there was, then this would specify what your stack was, Next.js, React, Python, whatever it is. And so the tech context includes the project structure, assets, templates, and so on and so forth. Uh, of course, it has added a bunch of these folders. It hasn't created them, but it's added them to this thing, which are probably going to be useful as I move forwards with this project, right? And what else? There's a README file, a changelog file, a tech context file. Let's see. There's a README file, right? So this is just your very generic README file, nothing new, nothing special about it. And then there is a changelog. This is your changelog, right? It's empty so far. Well, it only has a very little uh, information that we've added. Now, okay, so the project is now fully documented with a clear this thing, so on and so forth, right? And now what I want to do is, lastly, I want to create a git ignore, and I'll let it look at the contents of the movies folder and then create a git ignore file accordingly. So let's see right now, if you look in the source control tab, you will see that there are many files here, uh, such as this dot localized and so on and so forth, because this is the MacBook MacBook movies folder, and obviously we don't want all of these to be a part of our repository, right? So it looked through the subfolders, and after looking through the subfolders, it's asking me to give it permission to create a git ignore file, and what should it exclude, right? So they should exclude large video files and media assets, because obviously you don't want to save your media files on GitHub and so on and so forth. So let's tell it to proceed. Okay, so now we'll go here, we'll see what happens to this source control list over here. Of course, as you can see that it's creating a very comprehensive file, which is probably far more comprehensive than was needed. But now you can see that the list of tracked files has reduced dramatically, right? And we can go and check what this file looks like. It has all the movie formats, audio formats, image archive, and so on and so forth. System Mac OS system files, iMovie files, caches, temporary files, node modules. Obviously, you don't want those. Python environments, and so on and so forth, right? So very comprehensive. So that's good. Uh, but you can see that there is a DS store in the memory bank. We don't want that. That's a MacBook file. And see, okay. So I'm not sure what the exact format is, so we won't worry about it for now. We'll leave it like this. And yeah, there's this plist file. We don't want these plist files to be uh, part of the git ignore. Uh, so, well, we can just tell it, please add ds store files in subfolders to git ignore, and also .plist files. So yeah, so it's added this line which should not track this, but it's still tracking it for some reason. And you can see that it's every time that it makes an edit, it's updating the edit history file. So we can go there, and now you can see the edit history file has a whole bunch of edits, right? It's been recording everything. And if you don't want such a comprehensive record, then what you can do is you can tell it to not change any memory bank files until you tell it to. And normally I do that at the end of my session. So let me remove these files in my anything else. Env is fine. Right, so I have all of this. Uh, I've initialized my project, I've initialized my memory bank files. The only thing left is to do my first commit. And it helps to add the word brief. And you can see that even with this expression brief, it's still giving you a fairly long commit message, but that's okay. So we'll add it here, initial project setup, memory bank system, etc., etc. Set up T1 memory bank and project initialization task, so on and so forth. It sounds good. Commit, and we should publish this. So let's publish it, and well, I'm going to publish it to private repo, right? And now I can just go here and open the folder, and you can see that this is my repo, and you can see that it has this readme over here, and it has this memory bank folder with all our files. Okay, so this is pretty neat so far, right? I think, but the real power of the memory bank folder and the memory bank becomes clear only when you use it over multiple sessions. So let's proceed to the next step. And, let's quickly rename this to T1 initialization and project setup. Great. Now, before a little while ago, I was exploring some video editing options. So I had asked Claude, what are some video editing tools which I can use to remove silences and gaps? So it had given me some information, and I actually did not know about Descript, for example. I'd heard about DaVinci Resolve, but I didn't know about Descript. So turns out that that's actually a useful app. It has a free tier that you can use, and then it gives you all kinds of other information. And then I wanted to find out more information on the free version of DaVinci Resolve and what the limitations of this are. So it did the web search, the web search is part of the tools which are included in the Claude desktop. I'm not sure if they are in the free version of Claude, but they are in the pro version. So it's found these things, and then it tells me, okay, DaVinci Resolve, these are the features, etc., etc., core editing features, so on and so forth, limitations, right? And you can see that it's given a very comprehensive reply because Claude likes to do everything comprehensive. Then I asked, does a free version include automatic gap or silence removal? And then it's given me some information on that. So that's great. Then I asked it some more questions. Is there a time limitation for the trial period? And it says no, right? So all of this is good. Then I asked it something about OBS. Does OBS allow editing of videos? No. Okay. So this is great. Now all of this information is useful, right? It's going to be useful moving forwards. So this information is something that I should record in my memory bank. And so I'm going to tell it to refresh its memory. And quite often we have to add this. Okay, well, it doesn't it doesn't know what I'm talking about because, well, in this context. So there you go. Now it's going to read the current memory bank to refresh my understanding of the project context. And it's reading these files which we created. Memory refreshed, right? So now it knows what this project is. Great. So now all of this information is useful and should be stored somewhere. So for this purpose, in the memory bank, there is a implementation details folder. Of course, you can always customize it and call it whatever you want, but then you have to change the name in the integrated rules. So if you go to the integrated rules, there are a list of different folders, and right. So this is the folder structure that it specifies, and in this folder structure, there is a implementation details folder. So you can always change this to whatever you like. And what I normally do is I save the information which is going to be useful moving forwards into the an implementation details folder. And so as an example, I'll show you uh, the implementation details for a different project that I've been working on. And this has to do with something mathematical. So let me show you something which is not mathematical so that uh, you will not be intimidated. Well, not that I'm implying that my viewers are somehow scared of mathematics, but okay. So this is a project that I've been working on. And so for instance, one of the things is integrating with Zotero. Zotero is a Zotero is a bibliography manager, and so this is this is the integration plan, right? And it describes well, what you have to do to connect to set up Zotero in the app, right? So this kind of information I save in the implementation details folder. So let's go to Claude again, right? And tell it create a file, right? And again, I'll tell it to use system time and time zone for timestamps. I'll tell it to proceed directly, otherwise it'll ask me for permission. So, well, it's trying to create this folder. Of course, the folder already exists, but let's see how long of a file it generates. I'm guessing it's going to be at least 300 lines in length. It always helps to give Claude some sort of guidance on how long you want your files to be. Otherwise, it always errs on the side of making things large. All right, so it's 180 lines. That's actually not bad at all. And you can see that it has added the timestamp, executive summary, and so on and so forth. And it's added the information regarding the video editing tools and so on and so forth, right? So, okay, that's good. I'm going to also tell it one more thing. Create a comparative table of editing software and add it to the document. Tables are good. Tables let you see a whole lot of information at a glance. So let's see, it's going to add it somewhere over here. Right. So many times what happens is that while making edits, it does not find the exact uh, content that it's trying to replace. So it has to repeat the edit. So it's made a table, and let's have a look at this table. So this is it. Comparative analysis table, learning curve, so on and so forth. Right. So this is all pretty useful. Feature comparison matrix, cost analysis. Right. So this is obviously very in depth, and one can always ask it to fine tune this information according to whatever your particular needs are. But now I want to use basically I want to use my memory bank to record what I've done in this session, right? So I will tell it to create. Well, first I will ask it, is there any task relevant to this session? And obviously, we know that there is no existing task, but I'm just showing this to you as a general part of the workflow that one would use. Well, it's saying that T1 is relevant to this session, but it's really not because we would like to have a separate task for video editing tools and software because going forwards, I'll probably there'll be a lot of changes and a lot of information about what I have done and not done. So it's better to create a new task for this, right? So on and so forth. And I should also tell it that I just installed because if you look in this editing tool survey, it said the next step is to install the DaVinci Resolve free version, and I did that. So it's good to document that. So I'll just tell it that that's done, and then I will tell it to proceed and use system time zone for timestamps, and let it do its thing. All right, so it's created this new task. It's added a bunch of things, and I've installed DaVinci Free. Now it's added this task to the master task file. So what does the master task file look like now? So let's look at this. This is what the task registry looks like. It tells the number of tasks, the what they are, and details about them. Then it has created a session cache. Well, it already had created the session cache, but now it's updated the session cache. So what the session cache does is basically, as the name suggests, keeps track of what is done in successive sessions. Now, there are some files which have not yet been updated, right? That includes the edit history, the individual session file. So I have to tell it to do that. Please update the edit history and session file also, and then generate a brief commit message. And it's taking a bit of time because this session has already become fairly long, and you can look at the size of this scroll bar button on the right hand side that gives you an idea of how long your session has gone on for, and you don't want to stretch it out too long, otherwise Claude cannot, well, none of these models can deal with the very long session context. So it's added all this information, right? Great. It's created a task, it's done this, so on and so forth. And it's updated the session file which we had created in the earlier in the first chat session, right? Good. And this is our commit message. Let's put it here. I'll just make a few changes. And then quite often it adds a lot of secondary information which is not needed. So this is it. I'll say commit and sync. So push these changes to GitHub, right? Now, so let's rename this. And now in my next chat, what I will do is the first thing I will do is I will tell it, please refresh your memory, right? So, but for that, I will show you, I'll go to a different project because this project doesn't really have a whole lot of history. So let me go to a different project that I have, right? So this is a archive browser. It's a very nice app. It's a beautiful app, and you all should definitely check it out. This is the app, and anybody can use it. Okay, so now the first thing I will tell it is, please refresh your memory. And then it's always good to tell it, be brief, no changes yet. So you have to tell Claude, you have to give Claude this guidance. Okay. So now it says, look, I've reviewed the rules in memory bank system. I understand the key requirements, etc. Right? But it didn't really refresh its memory in the sense that it didn't really look at the memory bank files. Uh, so let's tell it to do that. So it looks in the master task file, then it looks in session cache, then it looks in active context. Well, active context is not really used very much, and so now it gives you a summary of what the state of the project looks like. Active tasks 15 completed, with the most recent task being a hamburger menu, so on and so forth, right? And now at this point, you can tell it to do whatever you want, and it has a complete understanding of your project. So this is it. This is how you use the memory bank software, and the repository is publicly available. I'll link to it in the video description below. Um, the file that is needed for initializing the memory bank is this index.js. And so this is freely available. And, uh, and yeah, that's it. So please leave your feedback if you use this system, if you find it useful. Please give a shout out to Gosu Coder, who inspired me to work on this project. And I'd love to hear back from all of you as to if you found this project to be useful for you or not. And please like and subscribe, and leave a comment, and share this video with everybody. All right, have fun.